Welcome to the Confident Host podcast with me, Kay Gibbs. If you're a holiday let host or co-host looking for more bookings, more efficiencies, and to get ahead, then you are in the right place. Each episode brings you practical tips, real stories, and expert advice. On today's podcast, it's me telling you about my most stressful month as a host in many years of doing this across many listings. So let's get started. Welcome to this week's podcast, and it's story time. So settle down, grab a cup of tea, or maybe a mop if you're busy cleaning your holiday let. Because today I'm going to tell you all about August 2025 and why it was the most stressful month for me as a host ever and what I learned from it. I must say, looking at it, I made some real errors, and so I'm really pleased to be able to share them with you so that you don't do the same thing. Although I think you might just say, "Okay, that was so naive." So here we go. I run a holiday let in a seaside town for somebody else, and it is quite a way away from me. So I go and visit every now and again. The owner goes and visits every now and again, but it isn't the case that I'm there for every single changeover. I'd been running it for about 9 months, and there had been some concerns with the cleaning brought up before. I really liked the cleaning team. They were really efficient, but things had come up that had been red flagging for me. I knew there was something brewing, to be honest. My first mistake was that during the 2025 high season, I took back-to-back 7-night bookings, and because I was really pleased with the bookings, I just didn't have the foresight and think, okay, I'll block some dates here because this is the most successful listing I've ever run, and I haven't ever had that completely back-to-back thing going on for month upon month upon month. That was mistake number one. I won't be doing that again. I have now blocked in gaps. I've also allowed some of the weeks that were 7-night minimums to be a 3-night minimum, but with a higher rate, so that we'll book half the week. And great, I don't mind which half the week gets booked, but the other half is there for maintenance, for deep cleans, for those kinds of things that come up, deliveries, all that stuff. So that was lesson number one. It got to August, and some concerns were raised with me by guests about the cleanliness that were completely valid, and that not only were valid, but that I had seen with my own eyes similar before. The kinds of things they were saying, I was thinking, yeah, that fits with what I've seen before. The things that I'd seen before I had raised, and so it wasn't the first instance. Always with your cleaning team, with whoever it is, the first job is to have a conversation with them and raise it. And that had happened more than a couple of times before, and yet these problems were ongoing.
Hello folks, it's just me coming on to interrupt me and tell you about Confident Host Circle. It's my subscription group, a membership for hosts just like you who are looking to take what can be something of a lonely sport and bring community to it. Inside, you'll find community, training, inspiration and support to feel confident in your hosting and in your business. Each month we enjoy a theme where there will be training, both things that are quick fixes and also bigger, more strategic ways of building efficiencies into your business and just getting more bookings. Confident Host Circle is all inside a private Facebook group where there's a really lovely community of like-minded hosts, as well as the training and the chance to chat and ask questions and so on. We have a monthly live where we either meet up together or you guys get the chance to ask me anything. At its heart, it's about consistency, community and confidence. And I would love to see you there. You can find out more at www.kaygibbs.com/confident host. So I'm in the middle of August. I've got back-to-back the most expensive of our bookings, and I've got a cleaning team that isn't effective. It was stressful, really, really stressful. One of the sets of guests were also returning guests who had been before with me, and I felt there was an awful lot on the line. So here's lesson number 2. I learned that it was a period of about 10 or 12 days where things were difficult and I needed to find a way through. I learned this. Goodwill is your biggest asset in holiday letting, and I would imagine in most businesses, particularly where you're at distance and you can't just go and slog your guts out and sort it out yourself. The goodwill that I had built in the community absolutely saw me through. I'll explain why I needed that goodwill. I very naively, thinking that it was the right thing to do, let the current cleaning team know there was a problem and that this time that problem meant we wouldn't want to continue with them beyond the end of the season. Now, I felt that a businesswoman with integrity and who cared would understand that and would be glad of the notice. You know, I'm conscious that her staff are self-employed. She would want to find separate work for them. I didn't want to leave anyone high and dry. But I know what you're saying. You're saying, "Kay, you're a fool." And within 10 minutes of me gently explaining to her that we weren't going to continue to be using her, she said, "Well, I'm never coming back."
back. And that left me 2 days to arrange something for a changeover that was upcoming again in our high season in August, back to back. There was only really 6 hours between guest checking out and guest checking in. Also happened to be during a period where my other half was away. I've got 2 young children. I couldn't get them myself. My word, it was stressful. So let's come back to the goodwill. I had built goodwill with the neighbours. I think that is so important. Our neighbours at that house also happen to be, one of them is the gardener, and I have been relentlessly generous in my praise. Absolutely rightly, he's absolutely fantastic. He's a huge asset. And our interactions, the respect that we've built, the relationship that we have became the most valuable asset in that time of need. I reached out to him. I asked if he knew anyone who might be able to clean, who might be interested in that. And within an hour, he said, we'll do whatever you need us to do to help Kay. So sorry this has happened. And volunteered his wife and her best mate. And they were brilliant. They absolutely saw me through that tricky spell just for the period where I didn't have anyone to clean. They were absolutely amazing and I was so grateful. More goodwill in my community here as a coach. So I reached out to somebody I knew also has a property, and I'm sure she'll be listening now, in the same town. And I said, look, I know you like your cleaner. Who are they? Would you mind sharing? And because we've been mutually supportive of each other's businesses, that goodwill was there. And she just immediately said, yeah, of course. I also had goodwill built up with guests. And I think that's something we can sometimes underestimate. So I immediately told the next guest, and I explained it in a really positive way that, this isn't good enough. We want to do better than this. Please allow me the opportunity to present the house as brilliantly as I can. And I asked them if they would check out an hour sooner and check in an hour later. And they absolutely obliged. I buttered them up. I made sure I put in an extra cake, and that was all good. They were completely satisfied with that, and it meant that they really appreciated the clean and were really impressed by it. And I did that with all of the guests that were upcoming during this period where I didn't have a cleaning team. As a co-host, and there's an episode upcoming about co-hosting, critically, I had built goodwill with the owner. I made a really poor choice to tell the outgoing cleaning team that that's what we were going to do. It was well intentioned, but it was a poor business choice. However, the relationship that I have with that owner meant that he knew this was a blip on the radar, that I'm generally a pretty astute businesswoman, and that my error of judgment was through kindness and not through kind of just straight up foolishness. And he knew I would recover the situation and gave me whatever resource I needed to be able to do that. So that goodwill was also absolutely critical. So we've got colleagues that we can lean on when we need that support. In this instance, finding a new cleaning team. Also, that colleague was very able to explain who I was and what I was about and make sure that I was going to be an appealing client to work with. We've got neighbours who can be just so important to our businesses as holiday let owners. And in this instance, he's also our gardener. We also have the owner if you're a co-host, and that's mutual. If you're the owner and they're your co-host, that relationship is just so important. And then, of course, the guests and the interactions I'd had with the guests up until that point, my professionalism, giving those personal touches, all of that counted towards me favourably in them being flexible, and I had glowing reviews, and we continue to have glowing reviews despite the difficulties we had. I also offered the guests who had experienced something subpar a discount on future stays, and I immediately secured 3 repeat bookings out of that experience for this upcoming summer, which was really pleasing when they had the worst experience, but they were really keen to book again. So that was great too. So the story pans out like this. We did, I think it was 4, maybe 5 changeovers with my amazing cleaning team from across the road who were just absolutely brilliant. I sent them big bundles of flowers, chocolates, gratitude, and I basically told them I would pay them whatever they wanted to be paid for it. I was just so grateful that someone was going to dive in and cover on Saturdays in August in a seaside town where there's loads of holiday lets. I was just so grateful. The new cleaning team started as soon as they were able. Obviously, they were super busy with it being that time of year, but my kind word from a colleague here definitely meant that I got the first opportunity they had to come and clean for us. And crucially, she also, the head of that cleaning team, immediately said she would take on the linens, which was a huge relief to me because I pictured myself driving an hour and back with 2 small children in the car collecting linens and suddenly having to do all of that at the laundrette and ironing it here, and I just thought that was going to be a nightmare. So that goodwill and that trust that was there meant she immediately took that on. It was inconvenient for her, but it was worth it for our ongoing relationship. So we ended up with very happy guests in a very clean, lovely property, a brilliant new cleaning team who have remained with me since, even more goodwill built up with the neighbours, and me just about coming through it without having a breakdown. So what can we all take from this? Goodwill. It is worth more than anything, because when push comes to shove, which push will come to shove in this business, if you've got people on your team and around your team that are willing to help you out, you're going to be fine. So that's what I'd absolutely encourage you to do. Have a think. If the worst was to happen, who are you calling? And drop them a message and thank them. Do it right now. Thanks for listening. We'll chat soon. Next time on the podcast, it is the hotly awaited Making Tax Digital, or MTD, podcast where I speak to the brilliant Helen of Maple Tree Tax and Accounting Services, my accountant, fellow holiday let owner, and she is going to tell us everything we need to know about making tax digital. See you next time.